going to tell you a little bit about our experience during the COVID pandemic. Well, to begin with, we as a firm were working with traditional businesses before the pandemic, and therefore our client base normally includes such traditional industries as real estate, as banking and finance, or some production of specialized merchandise. That's why we were very worried. At the beginning of the pandemic, we were very worried watching things like this, for example. Some of you may have seen my presentation made for Bosco back in May, when I was showing in the middle of the pandemic, but still in its initial phase. I was showing this slide, and in fact, if you, I'm pretty sure everybody who looks back can relate to this, because everybody was worried about the economy, about GDP shrinking to some very low level, about layoffs, mass layoffs, and this was a general picture. Here is some more gloomy forecasts, and this is where we were at in May, even in June. But in June, we started experiencing some new impulses from the clients, basically telling us that hey, we need to move on from this doom and gloom, and we need to start looking at our businesses. And this is when we started getting more new instructions, or we were getting instructions that were taken on a shelf for a couple of months, but then they were taken off those shelves. And roughly in June, July, we started to process several interesting transactions that back in March, April, May, we had thought that they would have never been completed, at least not in a very close future. To our own surprise, I have to admit that we have seen signs of a very powerful recovery, of a very dynamic and vibrant activity, business activity, taking on some new transactions. Here on the slide, you can see data covering only the first quarter of 2020. This is the time when the pandemic has not started for good in Europe, although you may remember that back in February, there are already strong signs of the pandemic taking root in Europe. And therefore, I would treat this data concerning February and March as a very firm confirmation that the market does not know the void. The market, even in the times of complete lockdown, it needs some activity, and this is just an example of the data collected from the real estate market, general real estate market in Germany, and it shows that there were deals taking place in the first quarter of 2020 that, with this dynamics shown in the first quarter, could realistically end up at the levels of an average transaction volume recorded in previous years. And this is also a confirmation of what I'm talking about. Of course, the pandemic has caused some turmoil in the market, and famously, the office sector, the real estate office sector, has been hit with the greatest force with regards to the rents, with regards to the office space in general. There are new business models concerning how the office space will be used in the future. And this is probably the segment of the market which is prone to the greatest change in the near future. However, if you look across sectors, you can easily find some segments of the market where there is a very strong hope for a very dynamic growth in not only throughout the pandemic, but post-pandemic. One such example, which I have identified throughout our practice, and on this point, let me go back for a moment to what I had said, that when we were talking in spring about these transactions that were paused for a while, and then we started dealing with them more actively. We managed to actually close several important transactions in the real estate field. We assisted a consortium of investors from Canada and Italy to sell a hotel in Warsaw, and there were very strong fears that because of the COVID and some legal issues that were discussed during the negotiation would be taken as a pretext to actually cancel the deal. But to our own surprise, I must say, it didn't happen. We have also assisted some infrastructure projects. For example, we have assisted in the delivery of cables for Poland's one of Poland's biggest wind farms. This was also an international project involving Turkey and Germany and Italy. And we managed to close it in July. And throughout our review of various sectors, it turned out that one of the strongest sectors is logistics and warehouse space. We work very actively in the field of real estate, and across several segments of the real estate market, we definitely see that the warehouse sector is the most dynamic one. Now, if you take a look at some data which show where the Polish logistics sector is, you can also see how the whole of Europe will be growing in the near future. I have the most immediate data coming from Poland, but I have also looked at the data coming from other countries, and we can say one thing, that because of the growth of e-commerce, there is more space that is needed for the retailers because of one very simple reason. The e-commerce requires much more warehousing compared to traditional retail business. And it is confirmed by, it is a universal truth, and these dynamics that you can see on this slide are also existing in other countries. What is particular in the Polish case is that the logistics sector in Poland is generally undeveloped. And to give you one simple comparison, if in 2020 in Poland we have 19.5 million square meters of space, in countries such as France, for example, there is almost twice as much of warehouse space, and which shows you how much road there is still to cover by countries such as Poland, but this also applies to other countries of Central and European region. So if you add these two factors, the growth of e-commerce and the dynamics of general development of the economy in Central and Eastern Europe, you'll quickly understand that there is only one way for this sector to go, and that's a way up. Now, finally, let me take a look of our case study, which I promised at the beginning. And this involves a very typical structure for which there are two business models that might apply. One of the business models has just been presented by Alexander and Maria. If an investors club, as Alexander was referring to, wants to get their money organized under one roof of an investment fund, this is all they need is to find the right kind of project that they will want to put their money into use. If, on the other hand, the business club is much smaller, or if you're talking about high net worth individuals, there is also a possibility to hire a small boutique firm of professional advisors who will be in charge of their project. So here is the part which Alexander and Maria covered with regards to how to structure for the purposes of investing investing money. Now, the second phase is to where to put this money, and here is exactly an example. In recent years, and particularly in the past 2 to 3 years, in Poland, we have seen a few very successful investment projects taking place. And by talking about a few investment projects, I'm referring to those investment projects of which I personally know and in which I personally assisted. Of course, there are hundreds of projects like this, which involved putting money into the development of a new logistics center. So in other words, traditionally speaking, into the development of a warehouse. And the logistics center is a more modern way to apply, simply because these modern warehouses are full of technology, and there really is high-tech technology involved in the development and the construction of such warehouses, hence this name. Anyway, here we're talking about a very traditional investment model, where the money is used for a very specific purpose. Technically speaking, the money is invested in the shares of an SPV, which owns a plot of land that already has a building permit to develop a logistics center. So right at the start of investing into such an SPV, the investor has the security that this SPV will be able to develop this property which it owns. So indirectly the investor is becoming an owner of this property. The other owner, and normally we're talking about minority shareholding, but simply to prove that the advisors or the investment fund have their skin in the game, they also are minority shareholders in the SPV. What is important to understand is that the investor has all the security coming from the fact that they have effectively got the ownership or co-ownership throughout the through the SPV in the land, and at the same time they have very professional advisors, professionals who have experience in this field and who also have invested their own money. So they have every reason to put this to put this investment project to a good end. And the investment team, and whether we're talking about an investment fund or a smaller structure just involving a closely knit team of advisors, they take care of the entire development project. They take care of the financing of this project, because to effectively realize this development, the bank financing is also required. So this is also what they are taking care of. And finally, they also deal with commercialization of the logistics center that they want to build, so that in roughly 18 months, because this is what typically it takes to develop a logistics center from the day of obtaining the building permit until the day when this is put to use. During those 18 months, they are actively seeking tenants, so that after the completion of the development project, the whole the SPV, there are two ways of exit. The SPV can be sold, or the logistics center can be sold, typically to an investment fund or to a pension fund. In fact, these projects, because of high profitability, they are really sought after in the market. So very often these projects are sold at the end of the completion. And in such a scenario, a very typical return on investment is a whopping 20% annually. In the case of intention to hold this logistics center and to simply take advantage of the rents coming from the tenants who use this logistics center, the return on investment is still not bad. It is often as high as 10% annually. But of course, the biggest reward comes from the development, because of the risks involved, which are, of course, verifiable through a legal due diligence, a financial due diligence, a technical due diligence. There are numerous ways of scrutinizing this project, but these are not the kind of risks that would be run by investment funds or pension funds. And this is why the real reward, I repeat, lays in the development phase of these type of projects. So, of course, this is this being a case study. I am not saying it's the only way of making money during the pandemic, but this is surely one of the most successful ways, which precisely because of the emergence of the e-commerce during the pandemic, that has become one of the most spectacular. To close my presentation, I would use one of my favorite quotes from Warren Buffett: "Be fearful when others are greedy, be greedy when others are fearful." And this is simply to say, be independent. Try to rely on the actual expertise rather than on your emotions. And this is why myself, as a professional, I often recommend clients to take this saying very seriously. Let me thank you by your attention and by finally explaining what I do and why I myself, being a Polish lawyer, and one would think working simply in Poland and dealing with some local advice, I want to emphasize that these projects that take place in Poland or elsewhere, they have one thing in common. They recruit the true professionals from all over the world. And I've had the pleasure of working with clients found all over the world doing business in Poland and internationally. I've always tried to be very active internationally, so hence I've got so many contacts and I am involved in these international projects. And due to this experience, myself and my team have been active in the project development.